welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Today, what's in the box? Well, let's find out. I bet you would never guess. A chainsaw. A vintage Sears Craftsman chainsaw. A 2.3 cubic inch. 38cc. Got a 14-inch bar. Came with a 16 also. These were made by Poland, and these were saws that were built by the Brazilians, and they were built down to a price. This one is an unusual one in that it has this feature here called Auto Sharp, and originally it had an unusual chain on it. It was made by Oregon, and the saw had some mechanism in here that we actually had a lever here, you could move it over and it would actually sharpen the chain, but that stuff's totally obsolete and missing parts here also. But anyway, we'll talk about the features here. Air filter's right under here, and here's your choke. Very simple. And your on-off switch is right here. And fuel here. And your oil. Now this is interesting here because this has a Farmer Tech oil cap, which is also known as a big bolt. I thought about, I should probably change it and put in a regular oil cap, but then it wouldn't be interesting. It would just be another old chainsaw. So anyway, but the things that are challenging on these is trying to keep them running. And these things were built down to a price, not up to a standard. And so there's always something haywire with them and stuff. And I actually recommend, if you like old chainsaws and working on them, you should have at least a couple of these. And not for the reason you think that it's a great little saw, which it isn't, but because you're going to be a really good mechanic if you can figure out how to keep these pieces of crapple on running all the time. So anyway, I'll show you some of the things we did here, so I'll be right back. Okay, we got the side cover off. You can see my new fuel line in here. Now a lot of these are different. The 2.1 line comes up from here and goes through the handle. Now this one comes through and goes through the side of the block here, which I think is a really dumb design, but originally they had a hard plastic line, and I'll show you one in just a second. But the problem with that is they get brittle and they break off, which was the problem with this one, and then they shrink where they go through the fuel tank here and they leak. So by using this modern flexible line here, it solves all the problems. So let me grab a piece of regular fuel line here. This is the stuff they used on them originally, and you can see it's kinked off right here where it goes through the case and would restrict the fuel flow. And yeah, this is still flexible in some spots, but it's rock hard in others. But originally I was just going to replace this, but I couldn't find any place that carried this size line because it's some oddball type. So anyway, what I did, I had this stuff here, which is bigger in diameter, and as it goes through the case here, it makes a sharp bend and comes up over here to the carburetor. So what I did is I drilled this hole out so it's 2/1000ths smaller than the diameter of this, and it went in a straight shot like this. And then I grounded at an angle, so this way it doesn't have a sharp angle on the hose coming in or out. It has that nice smooth bend. And unfortunately you won't be able to see it because it's inside there. And then there's a hole drilled down the top of the case here that comes over to the carburetor, and I drilled that out also. So anyway, let's see what we did here. You can see the difference there in the size of the fuel line. But the nice thing about this, like I say, the inside diameter is identical, and where it goes into the tank it gives a little bit of a cushion so it can't leak where this stuff would leak. But I've seen a lot of people complain about these, and you know, if you try to take it to a shop to work on it, they won't touch it. They don't cost too much to fix it. So anyway, I'll give you some of the BS on it here. Okay, now these are called pullin. A lot of people call them poolin. So that's one of the great mysteries of the vintage chainsaw world. And so I've got it all figured out, and on a future video I'll share my great knowledge with you. So keep watching. And anyway, this is a S25 CVA. It's 38cc, runs at 8,500 RPM. Power head weighs 9.6 pounds, made from 1974 to 84. Like I said, it usually came with a 16-inch bar. Uses 3/8 low profile chain. It has both manual and automatic oiling, which is kind of unusual for a low-end saw. And like I say, it had that auto sharp, power sharp thing, which is kind of a weird thing. Anyway, got it so it runs really good. Chain's nice and sharp. So as soon as we get some wood out here, we'll give it a road test. But the one thing I wanted to talk briefly about before we do that, like I say, that saw was given to me by my buddy Eddie about a year and a half ago. And this is the other saw that he gave me. And I did a video on these two saws a long time ago, but the Craftsman was not running at the time. Now this little saw, this little John Deere 40V, he thought that the Craftsman was a much better saw because paint was nice and clean. This thing was really dirty. The bar was all rusty and the chain was rusted. And, you know, just a dirty looking old saw. And he figured it was just scrap metal, and he just saved these both from going to the junkyard. But when I worked on this and got it running, I found several problems with it. One is it was assembled incorrectly at the factory, and so it only had like half throttle. And then, of course, the bar and chain was in really bad shape. I cleaned the chain up and sharpened it, but I could never get it to cut. So, and it was a 1/4 inch chain besides. So I had a bar to replace it. And I put a new chain on it and stuff, so it's 3/8 low profile now. And this is a really nice little handy saw. The thing is different between this and the Craftsman here. Like I say, this one was built down to a price, and this was built up to a standard. So once I get some wood out and start cutting, we'll do a test between them. This one I think will actually outcut this one for several reasons. It's more powerful, but it's not smooth and nice running and quiet like this one. This is a much better saw. It's much more refined. But anyway, well, we'll be back when we got some wood to cut. Okay, well, we're back. I'm going to take our pullin or poolin, whatever you prefer there. We'll do some time cuts with it. And then we'll do the same thing with our John Deere 40V. I got them at the same time. This one I put away for a long time, didn't fix it, but got everything done on it and stuff. So it's warmed up, so get my gear on here, do some cuts. Well, as you can see, it cuts really good, but the main problem with these saws is keeping them running. So anyway, we'll be back with the other saw. Okay, well, we're going to cut with the John Deere here. Well, you can see that the pulling is actually more powerful, but this is a much better saw just because it's reliable, smoother, and quieter. So anyway, we'll be back here. I got a few last things to show you before we're done. Okay, well, you can see the difference between the little Sears pulling or pulling, whatever you want to call them. And Mrs. Obsolete noted that I wasn't wearing my Sears hat, so that's got rectified. But the thing with these, there seems to be a lot of quality control issues on them, because like I say, they're built down to a price. And they made them under a whole bunch of different brand names and stuff. And I've got an old Skill model, and I've used it and used it and used it. Actually, I've worn it out, and it's really finicky and always has been. But this thing had hardly been used. And I've talked about the problems with this saw in other videos and stuff. But anyway, they got lots of power stuff, and the thing I like on this one, all the controls are real simple. Get the choke right out here, overriding oil button, which I really like, and ignition switch right there, gas and oil. And it's got just a little hand guard, not a chain brake. And it's got a 3/8 low pitch chain, which works pretty good on it. But anyway, there's one thing that this saw came with that was kind of unusual for the West Coast. Got an East Coast special bar for the puny trees you guys have back east. And it came with extra chains. And these are kind of crummy, but they're safety chains. A little raker right here keeps them from kicking back, and it also has the banana bar from Oregon, which was also designed for anti-kickback. The drawbacks to it, you can't turn it over. It'll wear out really fast and get hot. But a lot of people ask, you know, should I use safety chains and stuff? And if you use saws just minimally and you're worried about kickback, even a little saw like this, yeah, I'd go ahead. But what does Mr. Obsolete do with them? I've got a dedicated nail in my motorhead shed, and these all go right up there. And if I run out of chain, I'll have these laying around. So anyway, our next couple of videos are going to be on chainsaws, because the projects that I wanted to do, we've simply been rained out. Just storm after storm after storm. And so, but the thing that we're going to do, we're going to come back to the Poland, and we're going to figure out what's the proper name for them and why. It's a great mystery. So anyway, I figured it out, so in the next video I'll let you know. So, we'll be back.